The more Kias I drive, the more I start to appreciate the brand. The Koreans are still trying to prove something to the automotive industry, while established names are losing ground by being complacent. Kia's ascent up the automotive ladder is a remarkable one. You really start to understand why all automotive journalists are praising them, and they are gaining more and more buyers every day. And there's more to Kia than stuff like its 7-year warranty or the fact that some of its vehicles are more affordable than comparable models from established automakers. But Kia today is actually no longer a value proposition. In fact, the automaker actually has premium ambitions. It wants to rival the likes of Volvo, Alfa Romeo, and other premium manufacturers. So what is the e-Niro? Well, it's the all-electric version of the Niro crossover. This little highrider was initially launched with hybrid and plug-in hybrid powertrains. This all-electric version only came into the range in 2019. And yes, it is 2022, and that was 3 years ago, but I never got to drive this vehicle, and I had heard so many good things about it that I simply had to sample it. And were those other people who drove the e-Niro wrong to praise it? No, absolutely not. It's brilliant. I will say that I prefer the boxy and more quirky looking e-Soul, which is very similar to this vehicle mechanically, but the e-Niro is a more practical and a larger vehicle that allows your rear passengers to be much more comfortable than in the Soul. Interestingly, even though it is not as boxy as the Soul, it still has quite a bit of headroom, and this applies to the rear as well. 6-footers will have no problem sitting comfortably in the back for hours. So the e-Niro is Kia's second electric vehicle, second global electric vehicle after the Soul. You can have it with two sizes of battery pack. A 67.5 kilowatt hour pack whose usable capacity is 64 kilowatt hours, and this grants the vehicle a WLTP range of 452 kilometers. Its real-world range is around 350-370 kilometers, so it's a fairly long-range EV. It can also be had with a smaller 42 kilowatt hour battery pack, whose usable capacity is 39.2 kilowatt hours, and its WLTP range is 289 kilometers. And in the real world, you can expect to achieve 220 to 30 kilometers if you're careful. It has 201 horsepower in this configuration and 395 Newton meters of torque. It has the exact same sprint time to 100 kilometers per hour as the Soul EV, 7.8 seconds, and the same top speed, 167 kilometers per hour. And even though this is just a little bit heavier than the Soul when you punch it, a little bit of torque steer, but it really goes. You can easily break the speed limit in this vehicle. So my tester has the larger of the two battery packs, and when I picked it up from Kia, it had around 93% in the battery, and it showed a range of 342 kilometers. This in winter temperatures, so it's pretty good. In ideal temperatures, in spring, let's say, when it's not too hot and not too warm, if you don't have to use the heat pump, which you can deactivate with this button here in the climate panel, you should theoretically come quite close to matching this car's claimed range. This is one of the first EVs from a mainstream brand that has actually challenged Tesla for range. It was always the runner-up in group range tests after Tesla. It was always second, with the remarkable results. And you can drive this vehicle until it says it has 0 kilometers left to give you. Because Kias and Hyundais, the electric ones, they are known to provide very accurate range predictions, better than other manufacturers in this respect. If you drive the vehicle on the highway at highway speeds like the speed limit in Romania, which is 130 kilometers per hour, then you're probably going to drop under 300 kilometers, even with the big battery pack. But that's still very good for a modern EV. And in fact, it's even more admirable in the e-Niro's case, simply because of the fact that it's not actually a ground-up EV. Like I previously said, it's just an electric version of a gas car. Kia says that this vehicle should achieve an average efficiency of 15.9 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. My average during my wintertime drive is 22.3 kilowatt hours. The e-Soul with the smaller battery pack isn't considerably more efficient, even though it is a bit lighter. Kia rates it at 15.3 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. And while this 64 kilowatt hour pack equipped vehicle weighs around 1.8 tons, the one with the 39 kilowatt hour pack weighs around 1,670 kilos, so just under 1.7 tons. I've not driven that version of the vehicle, but I would imagine that it handles better than this one around corners. Although it's probably not as much fun, simply because it only has 100 kilowatts of power instead of the 150 that this car has. And it takes a much more leisurely 9.8 seconds to sprint to 100 kilometers per hour. So the e-Niro is around 4.3 meters long, and it sits on a 2.7 meter wheelbase. Its trunk is fairly big at 451 liters, and you can extend it further by folding down the back seat, and then you unlock over 1,400 liters of space. The only practicality downside in the rear is that there's no ski hatch, so you cannot slide the long objects through the rear backrest, and you have to fold it entirely in order to accommodate longer items. Euro NCAP only gave the e-Niro 4 stars for safety, with an adult occupant safety rating of 83%, which is still pretty good. I have to say that even though this vehicle's design is a collaborative effort from Kia's American and Korean design teams, I have to say that I'm not a big fan of the way this vehicle looks. It's frankly a bit boring. It is going to be replaced soon by the all-new Niro, which is inspired by the habanero concept, and it looks much more interesting, definitely. But this vehicle that I'm driving today, launched in 2019, is there's nothing remarkable about it. They seem to have tried to design it so that it looks as inoffensive to as many people as possible. You can tell the e-Niro apart from other versions of the vehicle by its blue accents on the front and rear bumpers and the unique rims that this vehicle has, which are designed to help the airflow and reduce drag. The vents in the front bumper, believe it or not, are actually real. They channel air somewhere. The grille is completely closed off, and that's where you also find the charging port. DC fast charging is an area where this vehicle does show its age a little bit. It is not quite as quick as the newest similar EVs on the market. If you hook it up to a 100 kilowatt DC fast charger, it will only draw up to 77 kilowatts from it. And that should bring the battery from 10 to 80% in 44 minutes. Its maximum onboard charging, via its onboard AC charger, is 7.2 kilowatts, and it will require just over 10 hours for a complete charge. The e-Niro equipped with the smaller 39.2 kilowatt hour pack can only charge at up to 50 kilowatts, but it actually takes a minute less to charge from 10 to 80%, so 43 minutes. And its onboard charger is the same, and since its battery is smaller, it only takes 7 hours to fully charge. The battery pack is located quite low in the vehicle, and the center of gravity is quite low, and you really feel it. And we'll get to experience its low center of gravity later in the video when I take it on a twisty road and throw it around a few corners. Even though it's a crossover, it has independent rear suspension and quite a bit of power, and it should be fun. So stay tuned for that. The interior of the e-Niro is equally unremarkable. It's very well screwed together. Materials are very, very good in most places. And all the places you regularly touch feel very, very nice. The steering wheel, for instance, is great, and it has held up well even in this car that has done 21,000 kilometers. I am probably the last journalist to drive this vehicle, which was part of the Kia Romania test fleet for the last 3 years, and it went around the country. The driving position, as you would expect for a vehicle of this type, is not the lowest in the world. It is quite high, actually, but the sill line is quite high, I would say, and this does give you the feeling of sitting a bit lower in the vehicle, and you still have great visibility all around. The interior is also quieter than the Soul's, especially at higher speeds. The Soul was pretty good at city speeds or moderate speeds too, but when you took it on the highway and cruised at 130 kph, you really started to hear the wind all around. But this feels a bit more aerodynamic and surely must be, and you can really hear it or not hear it. My tester also has the optional JBL sound system, which is phenomenal, although it is not as good as the Harman Kardon system in the e-Soul. The infotainment seems to be the same one that they put in the Soul, although this one just feels a bit more old-fashioned. I can't quite put my finger on why. They work the same. The screen is very responsive. You have a dedicated EV menu because this is the electric version. And in the EV menu, you will actually find this map view with a circle that shows you how far you can travel with the current you still have in the battery. This vehicle also has subtle mood lighting, nowhere near as bold as the one in the e-Soul. The instrument cluster is similar but not identical to the Soul's. You get a central color screen and two additional older style LCD type screens on the sides. Only in the e-Niro, the one on the right seems to be completely circular and it actually cuts into the central display. And because Kia no longer needed a physical gear linkage here in the front in between the two seats, it completely changed the console design. And in this electric version, you get the same rotary control that you get in the e-Soul, which also has the buttons for the seats, for the heating and cooling, the steering wheel, parking sensors, and drive mode around it, and also the electric parking brake. I have to say that ergonomically speaking, this is great. And unlike in the EV6 and in the e-Soul, I can actually reach the screen from my driving position. I don't have to leave the backrest for it, you know. I think it leans a bit more than the e-Soul, but the pickup is just as impressive. It really wants to take off when you press the accelerator. And I like that you can hear the motor inside the cabin. This is really fun. I shouldn't be having this much fun in a small crossover with a big battery and 1.8 tons to lug around. I don't think it's quite as planted as the e-Soul, but it is not far off. It is a slightly bigger vehicle, so that has an impact. Right, so let's talk spec and money and draw some kind of conclusion about the e-Niro. Before any incentives or rebates, my tester costs 52,000 euros, 51,960. But you can deduct 3,600 euros, which is a Kia Romania discount, as well as the 10,715 euros that you get from the scrappage scheme that Romania has in order to support the purchase of electric vehicles. So this means it would amount to around 14,000 and a bit. So the exterior color is a graphite gray type color. Interior is satin black. This one has tinted rear windows, heated steering wheel, the extra storage in the trunk underneath the false floor. It has an intelligent speed limit warning, or ISLU, a 10.25-inch screen that also has Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, although the latter can only be accessed if you connect your phone via a physical cable. So it has some chrome on the side, full LED headlights, the sunroof, which is a glass sunroof, front and rear electric windows, heated and cooled seats, heated rear seats, leather upholstery. The driver's seat is electric and it has a memory function. My tester also has the aluminum pedals, which are nice. They look and feel nice. This car also has a 220 volt outlet, the wireless phone charger, which is here underneath the climate things. And you also get an additional cigarette lighter and two USBs, one only for charging and the other is a data connection. Oh yeah, and the JBL sound system and the mood lighting. And all of this adds up. You don't need to pay this much though. For instance, if you want the big battery and the more powerful motor, so you can get one from 31,000 euros, all included in Romania. Or if you want the smaller battery pack, all in Romania, 26,391. euros. This is a great car. It really is an awesome crossover. So yeah, all the good things they say about the e-Niro are true. It is very, very good. It is very competent. Now I have to say that I'm curious to drive the next generation one, which they've already shown. And once that debuts, this will become a very, very interesting and tempting second-hand electric crossover buy. This pretty much sums up my thoughts about the e-Niro. I hope you enjoyed the video. Like it and subscribe to the channel if you have not done it already. And I'll see you in the next one. Take care.